Finding Jesus at the heart of the Gospels. Finding Jesus at the heart of His love. Learning about the things that He said. Finding His love and guidance for living. Seeking the gospel and following His ways. We are finding Jesus at the heart of the Gospels. Finding Jesus at the heart of His love. There is common ground we found in the four Gospels and beyond, but anchored in His teachings and wisdom. Seeking Jesus, we are searching His word. Seeking Jesus, we are resting in His grace. We are the Good News Fellowship, growing and following His love. We are the Good News Fellowship, seeking Jesus' guidance from His word. We find peace on this common ground, allowing space to grow. We find peace on this holy ground. Sacred ways are felt and unity is sound. Peace in the knowing that this good news can be found. Jesus at the center of our hearts. 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 Welcome to our Good News Fellowship. Welcome to our Good News Fellowship.
Hello and welcome to Good News Fellowship, our weekly gospel, unfiltered by other things that may have caused us to see the gospel differently lens. And we've got Dani Byg back with us. How are you, Dani? Great to have you on the program again.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes.
I've been quite happy just scheduling speakers behind the scenes, to be
I was
honest.
just literally about to say, Dani, really helps me out and schedules all the presenters for our weekly programs. And I really value that, Dani. Thank you very much. I was just thinking last night how it really helps because there's a lot going on in my world of social media, and this is my favorite, hour of the week as far as social media goes. And I love the community here. So welcome, everybody. Good to have you here. And I love the topics and the presenters. We've got quite I think 18 or 20 now of people that we draw upon to come and do some talks each week. So what's the topic for today? And I'll let you unpack it when we come back after our theme song.
Okay, the topic for today is 2 questions that you might not have asked, is what I called it. It was a really odd thing coming to this topic because I don't know why I said yes when you said it was time I spoke again. Right up until this morning, I wasn't exactly sure what I
Yeah.
was going to say. It's been really hard. And a lot of people talk about deconstructing from high demand religions and things. And, there's a lot of people out there, and religious trauma is a big issue these days.
Mm.
And I remember when I first left, officially resigned my membership from the high demand religion I was in, there were people that were friends that had been out longer than me. And some of them were at a point where they didn't believe in God at all anymore. And that quite surprised me. I didn't know how they got there until I ended in that same place myself.
Right.
And it's probably one of the reasons I haven't been back to speak was because of that. So I landed in the same place myself, and I remember driving over. There's an amazing view. It's my favorite view when I drive into town to get groceries, because it's a bit over an hour drive or a long way out of town.
Oh, wow.
And there's a spot where I come up over a hill, and all the way right round from my left-hand side, I can see across the hills and out to the Southern Ocean. And ahead of me, there's a giant, big, long, curved yellow sand beach that goes until I can't see any further. And
Wow.
behind it, the river comes out to the ocean, and the sun was shining, and there were multiple shades of blue in the water, and the grass was incredible. And it was one of those rare days where it's so clear. I could see completely across the flats and over to the Alps in the distance. And I could see sprinkles of snow on the top of the mountain.
Wow.
Because some of those mountains have snow all year round, not because it
Yeah.
was winter. It was still in the last couple of months. And I come over the hill, and the physical beauty of it hit me with I could feel the physical beauty of it. And in that moment, I thought, I don't know what I believe about God, but I know I believe that something that beautiful didn't appear by accident. And that was enough.
Yeah,
That was enough.
I agree. Yeah.
So partly what I wanted to talk about today might surprise some of you, we'll see. But it's also to remind myself, I realized that, so I prefer not to think of my life as a deconstruction. To me, that's like you just knock everything flat. And when I eventually go back to working in counseling again, so I got really, really ill with a thyroid disorder, and I stopped working. When I do go back into counseling again, I'm looking at getting into something slightly different. I did a lot of school counseling and working in the prison with men, specialty men's counseling and stuff. And I think when I go back, I want to call what I do a disentangling coach is what I think I'll call myself. Because how I like to think of it, and how I'd like other people to think of their lives too, is that I've been disentangling, so pulling apart the meaningful parts of my religious life from what was in a lot of ways an abusive system. I don't want to give everything up, because not everything was bad. And I think it's the same no matter what you've lived through, whether you've come out of an abusive marriage, or no matter what your trauma is, there'll be skills that you gained living through whatever you lived through that you actually want to keep. But you want to disentangle from what it was and move forward into whatever fabulous things are still to come.
Yeah. I love that. It's like you're not throwing everything out in the deconstruction or the disentanglement process.
No.
And when one thing you said there about, and it's okay, there was a hint of, I don't know exactly what God is even, but here's this beauty. There's a moment where, as you're reconstructing, you don't have to have some perfect model that, you can then go on tour and promote. I've found, for me anyway, that whole reconstruction is still filled with doubt and mystery, and that's okay. That's all right.
It's, even though in the beginning it was hard, when you said mystery, the mystery's, I think, part of my favorite part of it all. When you think about it, the Bible was, someone said to me, the people that wrote the Bible, they didn't live in a standard Western culture like we do. They lived in a world that was full of mystery. People fell in graves and hit bones and came back to life. If you believe it literally, they got they saw them get whisked away in chariots of fire, and miracles, strange things, and weird happenings seem to be part of everyday life. And for
Yeah.
a lot of those cultures, there are still a lot of weird and strange things, or we'd think that in our life that just are accepted as normal. And so I think sometimes Western society took the mystery out of it, and took the unknown pieces out of it, and made the Bible sometimes about as interesting as a instruction manual for a toaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the instruction manual on how to get to heaven. You don't have to have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe you're going to have fun when you get there. The whole heaven on earth and fun and mystery all got just taken out of the bits that...
Yeah, that's true. And when you think about storytelling, one of the key ingredients is having some parts you're not quite sure about unfolding in front of you. Yeah. Well, look, I'm looking forward to getting into the topic today. Let's, before we do, just share quickly what it is that you and Carrie are working on at the moment. I've watched a couple of episodes and
Excellent.
love the clips.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, Carrie and I have a YouTube channel. Peter will bring it up, called Conversations with Carrie and Dani. A lot of the time we don't know what we're going to talk about until we just rock up and meet to talk to each other. And there's rabbit trails. We have no idea sometimes exactly where we're going to end up. So if you're open to... what we really want to do is encourage people to think thoughts they might not have thought before.
Yeah.
I grew up in a religious culture where you'd turn up to a Bible study or to church or wherever, and the person preaching or talking would have a set destination. And everything they shared and every Bible verse they gave me was to take me to this destination. And so what Carrie and I want to do is ask questions and say we don't know, and have a discussion, see what people respond back with. And there's no tidy bow and ending for a lot of what we talk about. And I think it's really important. I think it's important to let questions exist.
Yeah.
And so I really encourage people to come over and have a listen. If you want to come on the show and you've got a topic that fits with what we do, definitely come along. And the one that Carrie's, because Carrie does the posting, she's got better internet than me. I'm apologizing in advance to anyone listening now. We have the whole of the area where I am is having some issues with cell towers, so hopefully it stays stable for the next hour. But so Carrie does a lot of the uploading, and so the next one she's about to drop at midnight her time tonight is going to be a fun topic too. I really encourage people to go and listen to that.
Yeah. And you just type in Conversations with Carrie and Dani, and it's the first thing that pops up.
So,
Well, let's get into it. We'll set the scene and the
song.
mood with Let Us Break Bread Together, our theme song. Take it away, Malcolm Clark. That was very beautiful. Thank you, Malcolm Clark. And Dani, over to you.
Thank you. I seem to have an echo.
Can't hear at this end.
Okay. It's funny, when I'm watching the show, I don't think I appreciate Malcolm's music the same as how I appreciate the moment to gather my thoughts and think when I'm actually presenting. It's been so long since I presented, I realized that, I didn't realize how important that moment of Malcolm's music
That's
was.
why I've kept it as our theme song and play it, because there's 3 versions that he's done that I do bring up, just kind of switch and change a bit. But it helps you just set the scene and gather your thoughts, and
it does.
Works beautifully. Yeah.
And for those listening, I was saying to Peter before we came on that there's 2 moments that I find the most stressful or the most anxiety provoking sometimes with presenting, and one of them is this moment right here, where I look at my teeny little 6 lines of notes and think, oh no, Peter's going to be annoyed that I don't talk for long enough. And the other moment's normally the last 5 minutes, when I realize that actually it went on for so long, I've got no time to wind it up in.
Get the wind up instead.
So I know that traditionally this is the point in the show, having grown up in a church and a religious environment that had lots of structure, this is the point in the show where normally the speaker says, I'm just going to pray and ask the Lord to be with us before we start. And I'm really sorry if it offends anyone, but I'm not actually planning to do that. And I thought I'd explain to you why, in case anyone was feeling a little odd about the whole thing or noticed that I didn't. For some reason, I was thinking about it before we started today. For some reason, it feels odd to me to do that, because to me it feels like I'm saying that unless I actually stop and make a big prayer and song and dance about it all, that God's not actually here already.
Yeah.
Why would I make a big deal of inviting somebody to come and sit down on my lounge chair and be with me when they're already here? In whatever form you believe they're here. So I'm just going to jump straight into some things that I want to talk about.
That's great.
So I do ignore, I'm going to use an old-fashioned Bible, so it means I'll have to put my glasses on and off. I know there's computers and things for this, but I'm into that. I want to talk and start off talking about, I'll read you the first one and that'll give you a hint. Okay, so I'm going to read from Genesis 17, 1-5. And then I'll tell you why. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you. So that's a really important bit. I'll confirm my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly increase your numbers. Abram fell face down, and God said to him, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be a father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram, but your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. So that's the first mention that I could find in the Bible of somebody's name being changed. I don't know if anyone's thought about this much, but that's the first mention I could find of someone's name being changed. And from what I can see there, I'm no giant Bible scholar, so I'm happy for people to, got the comments up for people to say what they think. My understanding from exactly what's written in the text and not going any further is God says, I'm making a covenant with you and I'm changing your name because your new name is going to reflect the outcome of the covenant. So his new name was part of the covenant God made with him. His new name will you be the father of many nations, and that was to be the outcome of the covenant. And then the second mention I could find of someone's name being changed was actually Sarai to Sarah, which was his wife, which is just down in Genesis 17, again, down in verse 15. And it simply says, God also said to Abram, as for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her that, Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so she will be the mother of nations. Kings of people will come from her. So again, her name being changed was linked to what God's plan for her was, which was to become the mother of many nations. So I thought that was really, so you've got one that's a covenant and to do with, so the name was a covenantal change, and part of the new covenant was Abraham got a new name. Well, it became Abraham. And then same with Sarah. So her changed name reflected what her new, become the mother of many nations. And then the next, there was a few I found in between, but I'm going to just mention mostly the ones where God was involved in the name change. There's lots of other stories of people having their name changed, but I wanted to stick specifically for now for the ones where God was involved. So the next one that really caught my interest was Jacob. Okay, so Jacob's found in Genesis 32:28. And if we look at Jacob's one, so it's looking for the pattern through all of these. Jacob's here. So Jacob's wrestling with, he didn't know it was God. So here it says, the man then said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. So Jacob got to be called Israel, again connected to what was happening in his life and what was going on and where he was headed. So he became Israel because he had the one who overcomes. And then there was Naomi become Mara. That's when she changed herself. That's in Ruth 1:20. I'm not going to specifically go and read that. And I think Simon to Peter's one of the more well-known ones. And that's in John 1:42. And there's not a lot there. It's not a huge, big write-up about that one. It's quite a short thing. And then the one that, I'll have a look at John 1:42 while I'm here. Okay. That simply says, so I go back one verse. So it's about the first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, we have found the Messiah, that is the Christ. And he brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, son of John. You will be called something I can't pronounce, which is then translated Peter. And so Peter became called, Peter, from what I could figure out, name was changed based on what Jesus could see he was going to become. Because Peter wasn't Peter the Rock at that point in time, but he was going to become Peter the Rock. And my personal favorite out of all of these, so I saved it to last, even though it's not in biblical order, and I didn't even realize this until I started looking into it. And I only started looking into it. How many people here knew that Solomon's name had been changed? Because this is something I wasn't actually aware of. So 2 Samuel 12:24 and 25. This I thought was absolutely incredible. So I'll go to 24. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he went to her and lay with her. She gave birth to a son, and they named him Solomon. The Lord loved him. Now listen to this. And because the Lord loved him, he sent word through Nathan the prophet to name him Jedediah. So Solomon's name was changed to Jedediah because God loved him so much. I'm just wondering who here has had their name changed because God loved them so much, or because he made a covenant with them, or because he saw what they were going to become, or because God's name for them was different to the name that their parents gave them at birth. So I guess that is my first question. Have you ever wondered, back to the two questions you might never have asked, here's the first one. Have you ever wondered if God has a different name for you that he calls you than the one you got given by your earthly parents. So I'm just wondering, I'm just taking a little nosy here. No one is jumping up and down in the chat going, yes, I've always wondered that.
There's a 30-second delay by the time they hear us and they write in the chat.
All right. I'm just wondering if anyone has actually considered
Well,
this.
I have had a bit of experience in this area because over the years playing music, I soon learned, when I kind of began playing more to put food on the table, kind of semi-professional, I guess, about 30, 35 years ago. I would have to do weddings, parties, blues shows, country music, bush dancing. My initial dream of just going out there and playing my original music, with an acoustic kind of folk band. Yeah, I got to do that as well, but I had to play a lot. And in the early 90s, I did released a CD of kind of new agey instrumental music. It was written really just for me to help me just sleep and relax. And it kind of took off in the new age world. So for the last 30 years, I've been playing 6 to 10 festivals a year where I'm invited to sing my music at these festivals. And 15 years ago, one festival that I sang at, were kind of not an ashram, but a bunch of people that kind of had organized the festival, and they sat me down after the program and said, look, we really love your music, and we want to give you a name that you can use if you want to whenever you sing this kind of music. And so they kind of sat around me and sang a few songs and then gave me a name, and and it was really interesting. And to this day, if I sing at those venues and those places, they call me by that name.
Are you going to tell us what it is?
Well, it's Prem, Prem, and it just means love.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking, Peter, if you make yourself as big as me, then I'm more likely to look at the actual camera than the little dot in the bottom corner of my screen that's you.
I'll make myself a little bit bigger.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And it's to the point now where I'll sing somewhere in one of those venues, and not as much anymore. And someone will call out my name and as Prem, and I'll turn around without thinking about it. It's become I'm quite used to it.
That's really interesting, because one of the ones I didn't mention was because I was reading up on all this morning. So I will confess that the original 2 questions I had weren't exactly these 2, but I woke up this morning with I was just laying there in bed and the questions slightly changed. So I jumped on and started looking through my Bible, and I saw things that I hadn't seen before. And because I was doing this talk anyway, to remind myself of God and where he has been in my life clearly in things, I saw a pathway from there to now, which I hadn't seen till this morning, which was really, really awesome. But when you talked about that, there were other instances of name changes, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They had their names changed. And from what I could see, it appears that the changing of their name was about, similar to what you were talking about, helping them assimilate into a different culture and society. It doesn't say whether they liked it or not, but that the change of name also changed their identity within the culture, and an assimilation thing. So there's a verse in Revelation 2:17 I'm going to read. Now, this is just a slightly contentious one, because it's in the messages to the churches, okay? And like I said again, I'm no giant scholar, but from what I could find, it appears that there's a number of different accepted theories about why the letters to the churches are in Revelation. Okay. I grew up with the belief, I forget who told it to me, the belief that these church letters weren't actually written to churches that existed. They were written to churches that were coming at the end of time, which has been since proven by other people to be incorrect. These churches actually existed. They are historical and they are past, but I've also seen it read that what they represent as archetypes is also timeless and exists all through time forever. So if I read out 217, this was interesting on talking about name changes is why this came up. Here's my Bible here. Okay. This one says, I'll go back. To him who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give him some of the hidden manna. I will also give him a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to him that receives it. So if you're looking into things that might be more relevant for our time, the time that we live in right now, that was the only mention I could find in the Bible of something that might indicate that maybe God has different names for some of us. So back to the question, first one, have you ever wondered if God has a name for you that is different to the one that your parents gave you? And before I ask the second question, I'm going to tell you a story. And it was actually 20 years ago, 2006. I'd been working as a counsellor. And I work as a counsellor, and I decided to take a holiday. It's different here. Back, I don't know what it's like now, but back then, if you legally separated from someone, it was 2 years before you could get a divorce. And I was waiting for my final paperwork and a divorce from a unpleasant, shall we politely say, 13-year marriage at that point. And I decided to go to the States to catch up with some friends. I'd been part of a group run by a Seventh-day Adventist church pastor called Bob. Never met Bob ever in my life, but I met a friend of Bob's who said to me once when I was in Yosemite National Park working at the camp there, he said, if you want to keep in contact with me, this guy Bob has his own website and I'm on it, and it's the best way to find me. So when I arrived back in New Zealand, kept in contact with my friend Dan through Bob's World, what the website was called. And then all these people from Bob's World decided to have a barbecue and a get-together. And I thought that as part of celebrating the fact that I was officially single and divorced, I would go to the Bob's World barbecue, which was going to be held in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, wow.
I also had friends in the States that I wanted to see. And because I had so many friends, I could live cheaply over there, very, very cheaply. So I sold my horse to cover my airfare. And I don't know how to say this. It sounds terrible, but I took a 6-month holiday.
Wow.
It sounds really decadent now. I took a 6-month holiday. But again, I had friends. I lived super cheap. One of my friends, a guy called Tony, was involved with Ransomed Heart Ministries, is what they were called back then. And I'd seen some of their stuff. He'd sent me one of their books and I'd read it. And I didn't read it for years because the book was called Captivating. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's just what I need. I need to read another book about how to be a good Christian lady, like I need another hole in the head. So I refused to read the book. And I think I read it just before I went back to the States. So I had read it and it was quite refreshing. Stacey, the lady that wrote it, said on quite a few occasions, nowhere in the Bible does it say that God came to make me into a good girl. And then she'd quote from Isaiah where it says that God came to set the captives free, and all those wonderful things that we hear quoted all the time. So my friend contacted me and said, there's a ladies' retreat being run by these people. Would you like to go? And I was like, it's very expensive. It's in another state. And he came back a week or so later and said, I've submitted your name to a group of people that are dedicated to funding people to go to these meetings. I told them what you do. I told them that you work as a counsellor. I've told them that you're going back to work as a school counsellor. And I think that what you would learn at this meeting will benefit everybody that you meet in your life going forward, because going to this ladies' retreat will change you. And my instant reaction, I'm sorry, I was just an arrogant little pup back then. I belonged to a church that told me I knew everything, so I wasn't convinced that I needed to learn a whole lot more. And my first thought was, I can't think of anything worse than spending, I think it was 4 or 5 days with a group of ladies that don't know how to use a chainsaw and probably can't change their own car tire. I mean, I'd come off, we were dairy farming at the time as well, and so I had some firm attitudes about things. But long story short, I said yes. So off I went to this captivating retreat. And I think that my life's boring, and I hear other people's life stories and I think, wow, there's so much more interesting. But the captivating retreat started with a miracle. There's nothing else. There is no way I can scientifically explain anything other than a miracle. So I'd been living in a little beach town about 3 foot above sea level. We were staying at my time with my, we had been living before that, about 3 foot above sea level. You could just walk straight out the front and then into the harbour. So when I went to the captivating retreat, which was way up in the Colorado mountains, and it's about 9,500 feet, I was sick. I was beyond sick. I'd got off the bus with all the other ladies up there in the mountains, and oh my goodness, I'd been there about an hour and a quarter. I wanted to vomit. I felt nauseous. I had a headache. I could hardly walk. You imagine the thickest mud you've ever had to walk through. And then imagine that instead of being only ankle deep on your gumboots, that mud's all the way up to your waist and nothing will move. If you've never experienced altitude sickness, it is awful. It is really, really awful. And so I went to the office and I said, look, I've been sponsored to come to this meeting. I know people have paid for me to be here, but I'm really sorry. You've got to get me off this mountain and you've got to get me out of here as quickly as possible. I feel so sick.
Wow.
So they contacted the guy that had organized the sponsorship for me to go, and he called back on the phone in the office and said to me, there's a group of men that pray for this meeting. There's a group of men that pray for this meeting, he said, and that's their only job for the whole time all you ladies are up there is to pray. He said, can I talk to them and can we pray before you do anything? And I said, yeah, I suppose if you have to. I just want to get off the mountain. I just wanted the pain to end. And I can tell you it was nothing short of a miracle. It was barely an hour later, and not only had the altitude sickness gone, but I could jog. I was running up and down the mountain. I was running down to the Flying Fox. I was all over the place. And
Wow.
it was absolutely incredible. To this day, it was so hard to believe at the time that it had happened, like something like that had actually happened to me. And even thinking back, it's hard to reconcile that. And I'm telling the story because it's good for me to remember. It's good for us all to remember. And I hope the story of the miracle that I went through, it's just the beginning of the story. We're going to keep going yet. But I hope it reminds all of you listening of the times that something which actually really is supernatural has happened to you. Physically, there's no way my body could have adjusted to that much of an altitude change that fast. So further on into the meeting, I wish I could tell the story of the lady that told it, because her story was incredible. She had an amazing story. And they were talking at the meeting about exactly this topic. Have you ever considered or wondered if God has a different name for you than the one you were given? And this is where the second question comes in. If he has, what is it? What is the name? And I'm wondering, has anyone listening actually ever asked God, hey, God, do you have another name for me like you had for a lot of those other people? That white stone that they talk about in Revelation. Revelation's not all in the past. It's in the future. It's also in the past. And we also have the understanding of is heaven now within us, the kingdom that is, as well as the one that is to come. Have you ever looked at that verse in Revelation and thought, I wonder what their name is on my white stone? And if you have wondered that, have you ever asked God what it is?
Mm.
So the lady was telling this lovely, big, long story about what the name was that God had given her, how it came about. And it was a really beautiful story. And for her, the name that God had given her was Rose. And it went right back into her past and her history. And it was connected to, because God talks through parables and stories to us. The New Testament's full of parables and stories. Hers was connected to the story of Titanic. And she was telling a story about how one of her friends called her up and said, I know you're an adult. I know you're a mother with 4 kids. And this is really stupid, but I believe God told me to send you a doll. So I'm mailing you a doll. And she was telling us all about the absolute fright she got when a 4-foot doll turned up and she unwrapped it. And it was Rose from Titanic. And so over 4 years, she got these weird letters and packages. It took her 4 years to figure out what God was telling her. Weird packages and things. And people would say, God told me to send you this. And she'd open it up and there was a box of rose-scented soaps. And then for some really weird reason, she explains her mother started calling her Stacey Rose instead of what her name actually was. And it was this whole beautiful story. And I'm listening to it all. And I was very cynical. From the moment these people said, from the moment in the first day of the retreat, when these people had said something about us having a good heart, from the moment they told me that I had a good heart, I knew they were telling me lies. Because, I mean, I grew up in a church with a prophet that was really, really clear that there's nothing good about me. There's nothing good about my heart. The best things about me are only as filthy rags. Wow. And my whole job until the day that probation closes is to take every thought captive, because Satan's running around like a roaring lion trying to see who he can devour. And my job is to take every thought captive and to try and, weed out all those really bad thoughts, because all I get to take to heaven is my character, to become the best version I could be, and all those sorts of things. So when they said I had a good heart, I knew they were telling me lies. I'd been told very clearly that there's nothing good in any of us, and I knew from years of Bible studies in the church that I attended that my heart was equivalent to a trash can. Not that it was called that, but that's almost how it was explained. Of course, the whole, what's that favourite word of yours, Peter? What I don't normally use. Cognitive dissonance.
Oh, yes.
That one. It wasn't till I ended up at this captivating retreat 20 years ago that I wondered, if my heart is the same as filthy rags and equivalent to a dirty trash can, then how is it that God even wants to live in it? And if God is living in my heart, like everybody tells me they are when they read me those Bible verses, then why is it still a dirty trash can? So there are all these things in there that were very confusing. And this was the start of my disentangling, or the start of me even realizing there was a need maybe for me to understand things differently. So my skepticism and a lot of what was being said changed when Stacey stood up and she talked again, and there'd been 3 other ladies talk. And my group of ladies that I meet with and study with every week, they know what the other name is that God gave them, and they've always known, but I didn't know them till after the retreat. Stacey said, she was the lady running the meeting, there are some of you here that are thinking, God's never going to tell me, even if I ask him, so I'm not going to ask, because it's easier not to ask than to ask and not receive, because that hurts. She said, but it might take a while. She said, some people, it takes them years. Some people less. She said, and there's some people that God will tell them today if they ask them. And then there's other people again where God has told me. There's some people at this meeting and they're called this or this or this or this. And she just listed off 5 or 6 names that God had told her were for people in the meeting. And as she spoke, she said, and there is someone here called Loves the Wind. And the minute she spoke, it was like I'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. And I knew that that was my name.
Wow.
And I knew that God had just hit a sledgehammer on my doubt, a sledgehammer on my cynicism that said, I'm not even going to ask because he's never going to tell me.
Wow.
It was the most incredible moment. And even now I can't talk about it without getting goosebumps. In fact, I don't even think I've really ever tried to talk about it. It's not something I ever thought people would even understand. So really going out on a limb here today. But you've had some people share personal stories lately. And there's mystery. The Bible gives us a blueprint of who God is, but he's also more than. He's more than, and I'm telling the story to encourage you to think that he's more than. In that moment where she said, loves the wind, I knew instantly that was my name and that God was speaking to me. And it came with a poem. To me, it's a poem, but it came with the things that I didn't realize until this morning when I went looking, and I'm looking at it from 20 years on. The poem it came with the same things that God gave those other people in the Bible. Okay. So when the poem explained what my name was, it explained what he saw that I was going to become. It explained what he wanted me to become. It was part of like the ministry that he was telling me, this is it. This is not like I want you to do. Yeah. You'll see when I get to it. It was explained clearly. Our name's connected to the glorious things that God sees in us. So when I read this morning for the first time ever that God changed Solomon's name to Jedediah because he loved him so much, that really meant something special to me this morning. Then they stopped. They stopped at that point, and there was a time of prayer, and it was absolutely incredible because there was a time of silence and prayer, and we're all standing to pray. And it was the weirdest thing because somebody that I'd never met before, I don't even know where they came from in the building, but they walked across, and we all had our eyes closed, so I didn't even see them till afterwards. And they wrapped their arms around me and held me so tight, I thought I couldn't breathe. And at that point, instead of like normally I'd panic because I would have normally panicked if someone had touched me while our eyes were closed and I couldn't see and I didn't know what was happening. But I didn't panic. I burst into tears, and there was this nice, amazing moment. And the person that held me whispered things in my ear that only God could have known. Things that only God could have known. Total stranger, there's no way they could have known them. And they were also related to this. It was just, it was one of the most amazing moments of my life that I'd forgotten about until I sat there thinking, why on earth did I say yes when Peter offered asked me to talk? And it came to me this morning. I believe that God said to me I needed to share this story because either now or sometime in the future with the people listening, somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to think God loves me enough to give me a different name. I mean, people change their names anyway by deed poll and for all sorts of reasons, but this is a really different and special reason. And so I'm just gonna read out. I'll just read out what it was that the poem that came with it for me. Okay. So, and I scribbled it down, flat tack. It wasn't even something I stopped to think about till later. And so this is what came with my name. And for me, it's a reminder of how God feels about me. Like I said, he changed Solomon's name because he loved him so much. He changed Abraham's name as part of a covenant. And when I was thinking about it this morning, I didn't leave the religion I was in or even consider handing my membership in and leaving. I wasn't happy, but I never considered leaving because I thought it was the only way to get to heaven. I never considered leaving until I listened to Frank and Emma right here on Good News Fellowship.
Wow.
even though I wasn't. And what made the biggest thing was when Frank and then Emma did one too. They were a couple of weeks apart, and they talked on Galatians. They talked on the Old and New Covenant, and they helped me see things in a different way.
Wow.
And unlike Abraham, who didn't get his name until the New Covenant came into force, when I look back on it now from today, and what I was thinking about before we came on to talk was that God gave me insight into how he saw me, and the pet nickname that he had for me and how much he liked me or loved me 20 years before I came to any understanding that a new covenant even existed. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. 20 years before. And so here was my name and what it meant. Loves the wind. And this is what I wrote, or what I was told to write. I am the wild wind, fast, free, and untamed. I am the determined wind, blowing away the clouds and shadows from your day. I am the warm wind, gently caressing you and warming you, tenderly touching you and slowly defrosting your frozen heart. I am the strong wind, the tornado who will fight for your soul. I am the cooling wind, refreshing and soft on those hot days, easing the scorching pains. I am the night wind, rustling the leaves, gently making music while you sleep. I am the wind, you cannot control me. You cannot hold me, but if you run with me, play with me, embrace me, stand in me and delight in me, and accept me in all my forms, I will touch you, wrap myself around you and change your world. And in that moment, as I wrote it down, I remembered every time my friends said, I don't want to go horse riding. It's too windy, the horse might spook. And I cackled and laughed and got on my pony and screamed into the wind as we ran around like lunatics. Up and down some of the streets and into the hills and the back of Currumbong in the mountains was where a lot of that happened. I remembered every time I had hopped into my friend Paul, I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm bad with cars, drove a white Peugeot. And I was crazy. I remember daylight, dark, all hours of the night. I'd wind the window down and sit on the windowsill, and I would hook my feet under the passenger door of his car, and I'd hang out the car backwards with my arms all over the place, go yee! At 100 plus kilometers an hour. I'd scream around the back roads in the mountains like a crazy with me hanging out the window, and sometimes have to grab my ankle to make sure I didn't fall out. I remember all the times I stood on the top of huge big cliffs. And I think that's why I like your other song so much, that Never Be the Same one, Peter. I remember all the times I stood on the top of huge big cliffs and leant into the wind. I remember all the times my friends would say to me, you're a bit confused, Dani, between the difference of thrill and chill. I remembered all the times. Wow. There was no doubt, and there has never been a doubt ever in the 20 years since, not once, in my mind that that's God's nickname for me. That's how he sees me. That's how he feels about me. That's what he does for me. And that is also, my name reflects, like some of the others, the ministry that he's given me, which is why I'll eventually go back into counselling, because that's also what he's given me to give to others. Although I'm a lot older now, and I think I'm getting more to the calming wind bit, less of the absolute wild crazies. It's really good to remember. And I'm wondering, I'm hoping everybody is now considering the question, does God have a name for me? I believe he does. And then the second question is, has he told you what it is? Are you brave enough to ask? Do you believe he loves you that much? And what is it that he wants you to remember today? Now, if you need me to talk for longer, I've got a backup topic as well. But tell me, where are you, Peter? Because you shared in the beginning that you had an experience with your name being changed, but have you considered any of these things before?
Well, it's interesting, and I love the way you draw some of my personal stories out that I usually intend to just keep quiet about. You have a skill, and I'll just share this only in that I hope people watching will share in the chat their thoughts on this as well, and then it is a perfect time to wrap it up. The song "Never Be the Same" I wrote on the top of a large cliff in Ireland that's, I think, 800 feet high, and maybe at the end I can just play that the footage of it, because I don't think I've shown that before. But when I was given the name Prem, I had done a concert and had hung posters around the town, and it was under the name Peter, and it was a Christian music concert. And I noticed as people were coming into the venue that a lot of the New Age audience must have seen the posters around town as well, and they were there a little bit earlier than the Christian audience, and there was the stage back here, and the entrance was on the side only, and they came right across and sat on this side, and then as the later arrivals, the Christian community, they came there. And so as I'm coming onto the stage, literally this side were the New Age audience, and this side were the Christian audience, largely from that movement that we don't speak of. That was quite a high control religion. And anyway, as I started singing music, I thought the problem here is that if I sing the more new agey style songs, where I've taken words from Sanskrit, which are basically the psalms of that kind of culture, and I put I put kind of Western music to it, the Christians are going to go, "What on earth is he doing?" And so I thought, well, I'll just sing my Christian music. And what was interesting afterwards was that the New Age community crowd that were there, they loved it. They loved the Christian music. They loved songs about Jesus. They came up talking about it. In fact, my album that Never Be the Same is on, Standing at the Cross, is still the mainly sold to the New Age community. And the Christian response was fine as well, because they got what they heard. But as I went away, I thought, wow, isn't that interesting that the Christians that are supposed to be real accepting and non-judgmental, and particularly this group of Christians, they would have absolutely been horrified, shocked, and would have judged me quite severely. And so that night I prayed, for a name. I said, I need something that differentiates the two, so that when I sing to the New Age community, I can sing under a different name. And it was a week later that I sang at that festival I mentioned, and that name was given. So even though it came from a kind of New Age community source, I know that it had been requested from a different location. People often ask, were you influenced or, to somehow become some of the things that they stand for. And no, I've lived my whole life playing my music in various different bubbles, and so yeah, that's my little bit of how that name came about, and how I feel that it was a God-given name, given via a totally different community that accepted me and embraced me more than the church community of my birth.
Wow. And I still think that the influences and the disentanglement from the church of your birth is, those threads are still in there holding you. Otherwise, sharing the story even now, there wouldn't still be the surprise that your name came from somewhere other than where you grew up.
Yes, yeah. Those threads for sure run through me.
Because without those threads that still entangle you into it occasionally, there wouldn't be the need surely for clarification.
Yeah, yeah.
It would have just been a name that God gave me, came from an unexpected place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But that is amazing. That is so cool. Did you want to read out some of the comments, or are you off the time?
We'll Frank has made a joke. I've been called kid of names in my time. Barry had a funny comment. Even Australians get a new name called a nickname.
I really liked Jane's one. Did you find that yet?
Yes, I'm just looking for that. Frank points out Saul to Paul. Frank is watching today.
Yes, I didn't bring up Saul to Paul because when I read into it, I couldn't decide. When I read into that, some people said that he had both names always. One was a Greek name and one was a Roman name, and he swapped them depending on where he was, in which community. But it's still a name change, and it's one that I wasn't sure of, so I left it behind. But at some point, if someone knows more about that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, in my case, I still obviously use my Peter name. That's my main name. And Jane wrote, this is just so beautiful, just when you were sharing your story there. No one's sharing any names that I can see that they feel.
Okay. I just was,
and I think, I to be honest, I think a lot of people haven't even thought about this.
No, so I was just looking down here. So Jane had said here, this is one reason why when joining religious life, many take the time to discern their religious name and why the Holy Father chooses a new name for them. And I was just quite impressed when Jane a little later on had said, where are we? Here, Jane. She said, as she journeys towards religious life, she said, I have been discerning what my new name will be. Yet I am so aware that my current name is also special. My mother chose Jane because it means God is gracious. That's the one. So I was thinking that was really cool.
Yes.
I didn't expect anyone to have actually thought of it, which is why I called it Two Questions that you might not have thought of. And I couldn't think of a name to give to any other title. It was too hard to title everything I wanted to fit in.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. A topic, like I'm hoping that people watching and listening go away and just think about it a bit more. And like the lady said, it might be years, it might never happen, it might be today. The lady at that retreat you were talking about, you've created a challenge today, not in a challenging way, but you've just placed something new on the path for people to think about. And I think that's beautiful. Did when the Love's the Wind part, was there an Indigenous name that came with that, or was it just Love's the Wind?
No, that was it. It was just, that was it. Love's the Wind. Yeah. I thought that's not too big for God to fit on a rock.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know why it's taken me 20 years to share it.
Yeah.
I've talked to my small group of ladies that I hang out with, but the stories they have as to how they got their names are really, really special as well. And I wish they'd come on and talk, but I can't talk any of them into it just yet.
Yeah.
It was just so yeah, and I'm just how are we off for time? I mean, I can read it again if you want. It was,
The
but
poem. Yeah. That's
it's two things. It's how God is towards me,
yeah.
and also as part of his covenant with me, it's how he sees me. And I think what had I written at the top here on my thing in my scrap notes? I'd written so this feels a little bit arrogant actually, but I've written here my glory. I've written my glory, my beauty, and my calling from God is.
That's good.
Loves the wind, attached to my name.
Yeah.
I'm the wild wind, fast and free and untamed. But then I see God, and I know that it was really hard for a long time for me to accept it, because I always think of the wind as being the Holy Spirit. But if you take it out of that context that we've been given, I mean, it's wind, and that's why I knew instantly from all those stories. I've never been a go to the beach. If the sun's shining, you will not see me at the beach. I'm not a go and sit in the sunshine at the beach. But if the wind's blowing and it's grey and it's all wild, I'll still go to the beach.
Yes.
I'll put on 50 layers of clothes, my boots and
Yeah.
a woolly hat, and I will still go to the beach.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of big thunderstorms. I'm scared, like the wind that came through here at 190 kilometers an hour and last year and knocked over trees, and where I thought my horses were dead because the trees fell over our stockyards, but the horses had got out before the tree fell. That was terrifying. So not talking, not that sort of wind, but
how about we have you finish with that poem, read it again, but some comments are just coming through now with the delay. I'll just quickly bring them up.
Yeah, do that.
And then we'll go out with the poem. And I'll see if I can find the video of the cliff. And
that would be awesome.
It would be the same. It's not
I
live
love that
on
song.
the cliff, but it's various clips of me singing the song with the song underneath as the bed track. And if you see the cliffs, that's where I wrote the song.
Wow.
So I'll try and make it work. Also, I wanted to just give another mention of your amazing YouTube channel.
Thank you.
So I just invite everyone watching to go and just simply type in Conversations with Carrie and Dani on YouTube. And there's some really great conversations. It's quite fun too. There's some playful aspects, and then you'll dive into some serious stuff. And it's the two of you together are a really good good team. So I encourage people to go and see that. And just looking at some of the
can you find Jude's ones?
just having a look. And Andrea writes, I've no idea if I have another name. So that's good. That's good. It's the thought process can begin, and we don't have to have another name either. Listening ear puts, I haven't got a new name from God yet. Jude writes, never thought about it till half an hour ago. Maybe the name that came to and I have used for many years was given to me from God. Maybe he saw the life I was born into and was never meant to be for me. My original name never was meant to be mine. That's interesting.
My original name never was meant to be mine.
My original name was meant to be mine. And Andy's just saying she appreciated what Jude said. Barry said that is a beautiful poem, Dani, and we'll come to that now to close with. So yeah, I'll just hand it over to you, and then we'll just go to the credits. Thank you, Dani.
And your music, because I love that song. I love that song.
I'll try and find that.
Okay, so while you're looking for that, I'll read this because I love your song.
Thank you.
So yeah, so what God said to me, and he said his name for me was Loves the Wind. And the explanation was, I am the wild wind, fast, free, and untamed. I am the determined wind, blowing away the clouds and shadows from your day. I am the warm wind, gently caressing you and warming you, and tenderly touching you, slowly defrosting the frozen heart. And I did have a frozen heart.
Mm.
I am the strong wind, the tornado who will fight for your soul. Well, if I ever tell my life story, you'll know why God said that, Peter. I needed someone to fight for me. I am the cooling wind, refreshing and soft on those hot days, easing the scorching pains. I am the night wind, rustling the leaves, gently making music while you sleep. I am the wind. You cannot control me. You cannot hold me. But if you run with me, play with me, embrace me, stand in me, delight in me, and accept me in all my forms, I will touch you, wrap myself around you, and change your world. And as well as me needing to hear that that's what God would do for me, I also needed to know that that's what he's called me to do also. And that I fitted, considering I was already working as a counselor, this was a huge revelation to me.
Amazing.
I think it made me bolder.
Yeah. Yeah. I can sense that in you. Well, thank you, Dani, so much for sharing today. You can hear my voice, all right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for sharing today. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, for liking and for engaging and subscribing. And we'll look forward to seeing you all again next week. Who is on next week, Dani? Do we know?
Yes. The lady that paints.
Oh, Nancy.
Yes.
Nancy Claiborne. Oh, nice.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yes.
who I asked.
I love when her, because Mark will probably join her. I love when they.
I'm thinking so.
Yeah, I love their thoughts and messages. That's great. Well, I think I've found the tune. Let's see if it plays, and we'll see you all next time. Just give me a moment. If it comes to an ad, I'll well, we're not getting volume there. If it comes to an ad, I'll stop it.
I just want to see the cliffs.
Yeah, they'll come in a moment.
You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment.
There they are in the background there.
It's beautiful.
And the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same.
There's a little bit of water. There it is. That's on the top of the cliff. There it is.
Wow.
It was snowing that day, and as the snow went down under the cliffs, it then shot up with the wind, and the sunlight shone through it. It was like sparklers. And as I looked over the edge, way down below me were clouds with a rainbow inside it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this is a different scene now. That's me singing on 3ABN. That's the cliff snowing that day. Look how far down that is. I think 800 feet, cloud. There's that rainbow you can see briefly, yeah. Oh, that's a young Pete. There it is. I wish I'd had a good camera back then. This is years ago. Oh well, I'll let that play out and we'll see you all later. Thank you so much.